For years, I've been lucky enough to travel the world, but I always return to Cornwall. This county is famous for rugged coastlines and sweeping beaches.
This is cool.
But Cornwall has so much more to offer.
These mines get almost a mile out to sea. This is a wonder of the world.
Now I want to show you what this place means to me.
They're like sweeties.
From its rich culture
I love these here.
to its ancient history.
Hello?
I talk to those who love this place.
This is where I feel at home.
And as you'd expect, I celebrate great Cornish food.
We take this in, they're more than happy.
Along the way, I hope to inspire you with my own dishes.
A sensational pud.
What I discover is that Cornwall is different to anywhere else in the world.
And it's that difference that I want to try and explain and to tell you what Cornwall means to me.
Twice a day, the North Atlantic sweeps into the Camel Estuary and the port of my hometown, Padstow. The huge volume of water rushing in creates an underwater maelstrom, which when seen from the air is one of the wonders of this part of Cornwall. As the water levels rise, it covers the many treacherous sandbanks in the estuary, including the infamous Doom Bar, leaving them submerged just beneath the waves to wreck the day of any unsuspecting skipper. The incoming tide also provides the necessary water to leave harbour and head out to sea.
I'm actually going out with Johnny Merrett, who I've known his family forever. But we're going crabbing. Quite looking forward to this because crabs are so important to our restaurants. Everybody loves crab.
My family has been friends with the Merrett family for years. This is a picture of my father on the right, fishing with Johnny Merrett's grandfather, also called Johnny, in the early 60s. All his fishing knowledge now lies with his grandson, including where the best fishing grounds are, and thankfully, how to avoid that perilous sandbank called the Doom Bar.
Johnny, just tell me about the Doom Bar. We're just crossing it.
Yeah,
why is it so dangerous?
Well, it doesn't look particularly scary, but it's just very shallow.
Yeah.
And when you've got that bank, as the swell comes in, it kicks up off that bank and produces a pretty nasty following wave.
So that is the problem, is the wave breaking into your boat then?
Yeah, there's 1,100 registered shipwrecks on the Doom Bar. It's very, very dangerous, and it scares the life out of me.
So what happens if you're on the outside of the Doom Bar and the tide's going down then?
Well, you've planned your day very wrong, I'd say. Yeah.
You certainly have.
Johnny is the rebel of the Merrett family. As soon as he was able, he left Padstow to train as a marine biologist and spent 10 years working in America.
That's the rumps. They call it the Seven Sisters. There's 7 lumps coming down.
Today, Johnny fishes for lobster, brown crab and spider crab, laying 500 pots over a 36 square mile area between the months of February and December.
I don't mind how many times I go out potting. It's always exciting watching the pots come out. You just don't know what's going to be in them, especially the first one, because it sort of sets the scene for all the rest, really.
Johnny will check a pot every 3 days. Today, he's hoping for brown crab, which are normally found on flat, muddy seabeds.
That's a lot more encouraging than 2 days ago when we were here.
Well, I'm very happy about that.
That's a nice hen crab.
Hens are female crabs and have less white meat than the bigger male cock crabs.
3 hen crabs. I think there were 3 hens.
Yeah. You tend to get your cock crabs on rougher ground, so more where you're picking up your lobsters. You'll get the odd one.
Crabs mature at 10 years old, living to about 40. but some have reached a century.
So what are you baiting them with then?
So dogfish, it's bycatch from the netters and the trawlers.
All right.
So it just works for crab. It's been on the boat a few days now, but
They like it fresh.
The brown crab is the heaviest crab in British waters and can grow up to 30 centimetres across.
Lovely.
crab that size should be a lot heavier. If you put your thumb there now, just push there. Don't push too hard because you'll go through. Can you feel it flex?
Yeah, it's giving a bit.
Yeah, so that one would have molted fairly recently. Crab, once they crack along that seam, pump all the water out their body, crack along that seam so they shrink right down, then they crawl out, and then they puff up larger than they were before.
Crabs grow in an extraordinary way. From the outside, they look like they've just got one shell, but actually they're growing another shell inside. This means that occasionally Johnny lands a crab that may look big, but actually doesn't contain much meat.
For a good while, there's still a very poor quality crab in a much bigger crab shell. This one's a much better quality crab, hard, and if we took that into your restaurant, your chefs would say, don't bring any more in. If we take this in, they're more than happy.
I mean, that is really interesting because that is a lot lighter for its size than that, and you just get a sense of what is good and what isn't.
Soft shell crabs and those under 16 centimetres across are returned to the sea.
This is actually better quality crab than we've seen for up in the bay for this year, so it's quite encouraging that we might start to get in amongst it now.
So what does it feel like being part of a sort of family tradition of lobster and crab fishing then?
It's certainly helpful having older family members that are constantly giving you advice. Whether you take it, it's up to you, right? But also having that history behind the family members that have done it before us, it helps us sell our stuff. And, you know, we're fishing the exact same grounds, so there must be some level of sustainability as to what we do. As long as you don't go and put 10,000 pots on it and try and wipe it out, you want to be almost like a steward of that piece of the sea so that you've got a living in a year and in 10 years.
I was just watching you with all these ropes snaking around. I once said to your granddad, isn't that a bit dangerous, you working on your own? And he just said, I've got a sharp knife.
I know, but he couldn't swim.
Couldn't he?
No, he'd just sink to the bottom and run like hell was his line, so.
Funny.
I think cooked brown crab is a delicacy, perfect for sandwiches or mixed with linguine for a simple yet very tasty pasta dish. I know that getting the meat out of a cooked crab, or dressing as it's called, can be daunting, but it's easier than you think.
Now this is a recipe for a crab omelette, and I do think crab and eggs go together really well. It's a crab omelette with Finn's herbs, and that basically is a French mixture of fresh herbs of parsley, tarragon, chervil and chives. Lovely with crab. Do start off by using a whole crab. Of course you can buy white crab meat, but you can also easily buy cooked crabs now, and this is how you dress a crab. First of all, you break off the claws and the legs. Now you need to break the body away from the back shell. First of all, just break off the mouth and then hit the back of the crab with the palm of your hand, like that. And then you crack the claws, use the back of a heavy kitchen knife. Remember to do each 3 joints at the claws. And then the legs. I only bother with the thick joint in the legs. The rest is a bit too much work. The first thing now to do is to take all the brown meat out. There's brown meat sticking to the inner part of the crab, and there's also often brown meat in the shell as well. Put that in a separate bowl. You don't need to use the brown crab meat for this recipe. You can if you like. A tip for really good brown crab meat is to mix it with mayonnaise and use it on toast. It's lovely like that. Now go to work on the rest of the crab, the white meat. Now, to extract the white meat, you really do need a crab pick, also known as a lobster pick. It's the same piece of kit. It's got one end which is pointed with two little points, and the other end is what they call a spoon. It looks like a spoon. So, you've got your crab meat, and now for the omelette. Break 4 eggs into a bowl. Finely chop some shallots. And chop up the Finn's herbs very finely. And add that to the mixture. Now add a couple of dollops of clotted cream and plenty of aged Gouda cheese. Probably about 40 grams. Then add salt and plenty of black pepper. Take your favourite omelette pan and put a knob of butter in there and let it melt. And then add the shallots and sweat them a little bit, in other words, cook gently. Then add your omelette mix. And let that cook out a little bit so it's all starting to set on the bottom of the pan, and then add half the crab meat. You're going to make 2 big omelettes to serve 4 people, and you'll slice each omelette in half. And let that cook out until 3/4 of the omelette has set, but it's still a little bit runny on the top. Now fold one half of that omelette over the other in your frying pan. It won't look brilliant, but when you turn it out, it'll look most appetizing.
Cook for another 3 minutes and then serve.
Well, as you can see, that's what I think the French would call an omelette rustique. I mean, the thing I would always like to point out about an omelette like this, make sure it's runny in the middle. The French call it baveuse. But I just love them like this. I like the fine ones as well, where the egg's just cooked and it's lovely pale yellow, but I also love this stuffed full of lots of crab, lots of lovely Cornish Gouda cheese. That is heaven.
Cornwall's remote location makes it an attractive bolt hole for those who earn a living on the stage or screen. Take my friend, for example, the Australian comic and satirist Barry Humphries, who visited Cornwall in 1962 seeking sanctuary from his busy life in London. Little did he know that he was to have a very lucky escape on the cliffs at Zena near Land's End.
It's very odd for me, Rick, to come here after 58 years, because it's just here that I had really probably the most dramatic event in my entire life.
Fresh from his first break on the West End stage in the musical Oliver, Barry took a holiday in Cornwall to work on developing his most famous character, Dame Edna.
Edna was a fairly recent creation of mine. So I took a suitcase full of old Australian women's magazines with me to Cornwall. And
study up
I
on
thought
what?
I'd try and get myself into the mind of a Melbourne housewife.
Fabulous. So what happened then?
One morning, it was in February, there was snow lying around looked like laundry lying in the fields. And we went for a walk, and I put on my Wellington boots. And we wandered through the fields, and we had to cross a very small stream, which was frozen. Gingerly, I put my rubber heel, on a stone, which was icy, covered with ice, and I slipped, and I sat down in the stream, freezing water. And I laughed. Seemed so ridiculous. But I didn't laugh for long. because that icy chute took me on a ride, a roller coaster ride. It zigzagged twice and then over the cliff. I found myself on a ledge, a rocky ledge. There was a sort of waterfall running over my knees, ice cold, and my bottom was slipping slightly on the rock.
Dear.
And I looked down and I saw these jagged rocks and the sea coming in. And I must have been a bit stunned. I'd broken my arm. I'd dislocated my shoulder, so I couldn't move.
You must have thought it was all over for you.
I thought, this is the end. This is how it's to happen. And then I heard a sound, a threshing sound, a helicopter. I thought the Thunderbirds are here. And then I remember little else until I woke up in the West Penzance Hospital. I think they've renamed it Barry's Leap.
For many years, Barry was lucky to be good friends with one of Britain's greatest poets, Sir John Betjeman, whose writing I also love. From 1972 until his death in 1984, Sir John was our poet laureate. He was also a huge fan of Victorian architecture, fighting tooth and nail to stop the destruction of St Pancras Station in London. Today, his victory is immortalised in this statue. John loved Cornwall. There was nowhere better in his eyes to be. It was the inspiration for much of his writing, especially here, the Camel Estuary near St Enodoc Church.
Very beautiful.
There it is.
Betjeman's grave.
Yes.
Beautiful, that calligraphy, isn't it?
Isn't it? It's so simple. That's what I like about it, you know.
It's a perfect place of meditation, isn't it?
It is, with its crooked spire. There's something truly lovely about it. No wonder he wanted to be buried here.
I was lucky because the first praise I ever got was from John Betjeman, because when I left Australia, having already invented the character of Edna and a few other Australians, most of the critics thought I was a bit of a traitor. I was letting the side down. And even one reviewer said, it's very funny in Melbourne, but we hope he doesn't do that overseas, because people will think we're all like that. Betjeman had been in Australia, and he'd been played some record of mine and had liked it and said so to a reporter. So I got this indirectly, and I'd always admired his poetry. And so I wrote him a letter, to the great man, and he replied, and I had lunch with him, and we became very good friends for the rest of our lives.
So what do you think about his Cornish poetry, then?
Well, the Cornish poetry is very good. I happen to have one in my pocket here. I'm not a great reader of poetry, aloud, though I read poetry every day of my life. This is for Bretherick. We used to picnic where the thrift grew deep and tufted to the edge. We saw the yellow foam flakes drift in trembling sponges on the ledge below us, till the wind would lift them up the cliff and over the hedge. Sand in the sandwiches, wasps in the tea. He's probably more popular now than he was in his lifetime.
I think he is, actually, the most popular poet in Britain, anyway.
But his poems do what poems should do. They have real emotion.
Yeah.
They're about things he knew about that connect with things that we know about, and feelings, and they rhyme.
It's quite nice having a rhyme, isn't
Isn't
it?
it?
Having a poem that's sort of put together in a nice way.
So that's a kind of structure.
Yeah.
The only way I could persuade my friend Barry to appear in my show about Cornwall was to promise him that I'd taste a new dish he's been cooking up.
I'm very confident because it's my own recipe, and these are fish cakes.
They look very good.
Please help yourself. But you
They're
could
still
try one. And
cake.
Look, first of all, I want you to be frank about this because I've seen you on all these shows, and you taste things that I can see repel you, but you give the impression of enjoying it.
They're not bad.
You could also say marvellous isn't the word.
I could say...
And
They're
what,
very good.
What do you think is the secret ingredient?
Well, there's salmon, there's boiled egg,
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of parsley, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
potato.
Mm-hmm.
What are these little things? Capers.
Capers, you see.
Hang
Slight little
on.
gherkin
A bit of gherkin.
and,
That
ri-
was-
and
that-
pink peppercorns.
That's what I've just tasted, pink peppercorn. I tell you what, I'm not joking, because I was going to say stick to the main job.
Stick to my real job. What's that anymore?
Oh, you'll be back. How many times has Dame Edna done a final tour then, I'd like to ask?
Not enough times.
I think we'll be seeing Dame Edna on our screens again. Not far down the coast, I'd heard about a rather eccentric group of women. These are the Perranporth cold water swimmers, who, just like me, enjoy a daily dip.
I do like swimming. I do swim all through the year, but I do choose my my days and stuff. Yeah, this is a particularly nasty day. It's a nice north wind biting into me. Hope I come back.
With 650 members, they are a part of a national movement called the Blue Tits, whose aim is to get more people to enjoy the benefits of cold water swimming. And if you're wondering what I'm wearing, these jackets are all the rage if you're a wild swimmer.
I think you might need it. Are you ready?
Well, sort of. I don't know. So do you do this all the time?
All year round.
All year round, every day.
Yeah, I know. Whatever the weather.
Yeah.
Why'd you do this?
Oh, well, it's just the most amazing feeling in the world. It really is. It makes you just feel so alive, and you know, everybody's got things going on in their lives that are so busy, and just cold water swimming just kind of clears your head. It's just incredible, and the friendships we've all made is just fantastic. And we have cake and coffee afterwards.
Do we?
Yes.
I've always been a bit hardy, darling.
Yeah. It is a little bit extreme, it has to be said, and I think here we go, rain. Yeah, very hardy, obviously.
Good for a hangover, I have to say.
Yes, it is. Have you got one? Yeah.
Well, let's go on with it.
Yeah, come on then.
Well, I couldn't put it off any longer.
Let's be having ya. Built a stern stuff, you girl.
Oh, we are Cornish, you see.
But it is exhilarating. Up for it. bit of a bee in my body about Cornwall being like the Mediterranean. This is cool. One more way. You're all my friend.
Doesn't it feel great to be alive? Look at that. It's just, and the elements, everything. It's just amazing. Love it.
It was exhilarating, actually. Really enjoyed it. I was like dreading it. But I think that's the same every time you do a cold water swim. You feel like, I shouldn't be doing this. And you get in and then you just feel really good. I just think it's sort of being in the elements and realising every day is a bit of a challenge, really, to get into cold water. But when you're in there and you realise you can deal with it, it makes you feel strong. It makes you feel good about yourself. But I'm thinking about my towel and a cup of tea.
Join me next time as I continue my journey across the ancient land of Cornwall.
Cheers. That's very nice.
We got a Joey.
Look at that.
We got mackerel for breakfast, Rick.
The mixture of that spice and the glorious mackerel is just perfect. Can't imagine anybody's quite as mad as you to have such an enormous orchard.
It's really exciting. There won't be anything like it anywhere else in the world.